Hello, everyone. Welcome to Dear Hallmark. My name is Dara, and this is your space where you can unabashedly and unapologetically talk about all things Hallmark Channel. Now, normally I'm here by myself talking about said Hallmark Channel movies, but I am not by myself today, not in the least bit, y'all. We have a returning guest here to the home of Dear Hallmark. He's been up and down Cherry Lane. We're about to see him at least a couple more times on Cherry Lane, but he has come busted into the Hallmark world with Christmas contests. We saw him in Lights, Camera, Christmas, and he's here today to talk about a few of his latest Christmas movies with Hallmark Channel. Everyone, please welcome Mr. John Brotherton. Sir, thank you for coming back.
I need to hire you as my own personal PR. How you doing?
uh, chilling out, Max, and relaxing, all cool. How are you doing?
Yeah, shooting some b-ball outside of school, right? That's what
Hey,
you're doing. We didn't cue that up, I swear.
so great. But so I want to just kick off our conversation talking like with an icebreaker question.
Cool.
If you had to describe yourself as a color, what color would you use to describe yourself?
Navy blue.
I lied to you not. I was thinking about that. I thought about because I was like, I think he might. I thought of like a color for you, and I thought navy blue. Now, why would you say navy blue?
I don't know. It's funny. That's always been my color, like since I was little, for whatever reason. That was like what I resonate. I've always been like, darker colors, black, grays, whites, and navy. Have anytime like the a costumer calls me, for example, and they're like, "Hey, what colors do you like to wear?" That kind of thing. It's always
Yeah,
I got my palette. It's white, black, gray, and navy. But I guess navy's always just been the one that has resonated with me. It's like a strong blue. It feels like I don't know, it feels like it just feels right to me, I guess, if that makes
yeah,
any kind of sense.
yeah. No, it does.
Um,
And you're
so it's
super cool. That's why I picked navy blue for you. I was like, navy blue is just like a chill, cool color, and I feel like that suits you. So, yeah, 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 yeah.
appreciate
Yeah. So let's go into the last time you were here.
it.
You were talking about Lights, Camera, Christmas with
So
the
fun.
wonderful Kimberly Sustad.
So
So
one,
wonderful. I haven't had a chance to tell you how that movie was such a delight. It was so amazing. And I just want to talk about one thing, or we can talk about a couple. We'll see. But the suit, sir. The suit and the Santa suit.
oh,
And
I got suit.
wait, say that again.
Well, I got stories about the suit, so I can't wait for your questions.
Oh, well, the biggest question is well, it's not a question, it's more of a statement. Bravo. Because the suit,
Well,
I have like in terms of visually, like I definitely focus on costuming and fashion. So when I was like, oh, this is how we're doing Santa this year, I was like, that's really, really, really cool. So talk a little bit about did you work with the costume designer for that suit or talk a little bit about that process?
what was really cool is we went into, and gosh, I wish I remembered his name, but he's this tailor who's literally Italian, like not like, oh, but I mean,
Yeah.
like still has the thick accent. It was like, I felt like getting that suit made was its own movie. I
Wow.
went into this place and he was building it from scratch. And it was that old school feel of standing there and having like the Italian tailor like map out my body, and then I'd come back and try on different pieces of it that was like, it still has like the pins. It's not fully done, but he wants to see how it, fits. And it was built from the ground up. They wanted to make cool Santa. That was kind of the goal. Is arbitrary as that term might be. It was like they wanted to kind of reshape the idea of like the Santa suit. They had there's some like older model like Silver Fox who does a lot of like hot Santa like
Yeah.
spreads. It's kind of part of their inspiration. They're like, we want to go for this. And but going in there to this old school tailor, he's got pictures of old stars on the wall, black and white autographs of these people that he's clothed over the years, or I made this for so and so and that for so and so. So it was just a really cool process. It was so authentic in building this Christmas suit, which just felt really cool. It felt like special when I put it on. It felt like I was wearing like a magic cloak. which was a lot of fun. It was really cool.
And your character, I felt like you were just let loose and just like, and I mentioned this in our interview, like the amounts of ridiculousness. Like you were just, it was so great though. It was really, really great. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I loved it because they let me wear shades. Usually you can't wear shades. They just wanted to like all the, sort of stereotypes of the Hollywood actor. They let me just roll with, which, I love to ham it up, as when the camera's rolling. It was a hoot, man. That movie was so fun, and obviously Kimberly is like brilliant, just totally brilliant, and can't wait to work with her again. And that movie was just so fun. It was I felt like I really got to just let loose in
Yeah.
that. But the other Santa suit, here's a funny story. The other Santa suit, the big one, when I'm shooting the movie inside the movie, and I have like the old fashioned Santa suit on, that was like the hottest day of the year in Vancouver. And it was over 100 degrees. I don't know what it was in Celsius, but it was over 100 degrees. And the crew was so worried about me, and they were so wonderful because they were really panicked about my health, frankly, that inside of that entire suit was packed with ice packs. I had like ice packs wrapped around my back and my chest and my sides. And it was between scenes, they're coming in with like full fans. They were really, really worried about, me overheating, frankly, because it was
Yeah.
padded, over the ice was like, you had pillows and essentially like the thick, I mean, so had it, but it was funny because it was so Hollywood. It was like, here we are, I'm dripping sweat, but it's supposed to be me as the real Santa Claus. And they've got, ice packs literally inside of the whole suit's packed with ice packs. Which
Yikes.
was, they take good care. Obviously, they were concerned. But it was the hottest day of production was the day that I had that on. And we were out in the middle of nowhere outside of Vancouver. And it was something to remember for sure, for sure. Like my makeup was running, like it was crazy. It was
Listen,
but one of the stories, you'd rather a story than no story, right?
but this is how we know you're good because we couldn't tell. Like me hearing that story, it's just like you were going through all of that and you still put it on and did the thing. And like everyone enjoyed the movie. So kudos to you, sir, for doing that.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. It's my joy.
Yeah. So I'm kind of getting ahead of myself, but I like when you talked about and I mentioned like your different Hallmark movies, you're becoming a part of our family, like our Hallmark watching family. And one of the not one of, but the theme that I'm having this year or committing to this year with the different actors that I have the chance to interview is community. And so, John, I want to
Oh,
ask you the importance of community both in the industry and out of the industry, especially as you're coming into a different and new community. And then we can also use this to segue into Cherry Lane if you want. But just, yeah, I wanted to hear your thoughts on how important community is for you as you're entering into this new space, being with Hallmark and making more Hallmark movies, and also what community looks like for you outside of the industry and how important that is for you.
man, there's so many good parts about this question. It goes back to me. First of all, Netflix, I mean, not Netflix, Hallmark does such an amazing job of creating community within us, and then also trying to embrace the
Mm,
community of fans uh, as one, But to start from the very, very, very beginning of like my journey in acting, that was my favorite part. I started going to drama camp when I was in junior high. My mom sent me to drama camp. I was like the weird jock. Like you're the weirdo at drama camp when you're like, the jock. So which I really loved. I loved it because it was this space of this eclectic group of people that were from all over the place and all walks of life. And, you know, literally everyone was accepted and was free to just be whoever they wanted to be. And there's something about doing live theater, especially when you don't have a budget, that
mm,
it is the ultimate team game because we were making sets ourselves, we're doing each other's makeup backstage, we're building each other's wardrobe. You're running off stage, you have a change, you have another actor there waiting for you because you don't there isn't hired hands like we were it. And we were doing Shakespeare like in junior high, and yet taking it so seriously and supporting each other and wanting to run lines together. And I mean, I remember, we'd this where we went to this drama camp. It had all kinds of facilities, but one of which it had like racquetball courts in it because it was this big community. And like you'd grab your friends during lunch and we'd go in these little racquetball rooms that was like basically like a box, and we'd start running stuff on our own. And there was just always that's what I really fell in love with early on in my not even career. I was 11, 12, 13 years old.
Yeah.
And cool fun fact, Ari Shapiro, who's one of the main talking heads on NPR for the last 25 years, was in my drama camp, went to my high school, ended up getting a scholarship to Yale. He was 2 years ahead of me, but he was a phenomenal actor and singer. And he was like the kind of leader of our drama camp that I really looked up to. And it's so great to see him just killing it now. But so to fast forward to bring it like full circle, that same thing that like I loved about theater is the same thing I love in sports about team games. It is the same thing that Hallmark has nailed that nobody else is doing is
Mm,
this sense of community within their actors. So it doesn't feel like competition. Instead, it feels like we're like lifting each other up and we can't wait to work together. And the conversations are like, when are we going to get paired together? When are we going to do a buddy movie together? Or instead of it being like a fight to like get to the top, it really
mm-hmm.
feels like snow globe of actors that they shake up and they kind of all fall down into place. But then now I mean, really including the fans on that journey and trying, whether it's this Christmas experience coming up in Kansas City, whether it's the cruise, they're just really trying to kind of return the appreciation of the fans, because our relationship with fans is so much different than I've ever experienced
Mm,
because of what these movies mean to people. And it sounds cheesy to say that, but like the real stories that I get from people about how these movies have affected them or what a certain movie meant at a certain moment of time in their life when they were dealing with something. I get a lot of like hospital stories. I hear that a lot. I hear it from nurses that's what the patients want. I hear
mm,
specific stories of a story that I told in front of the Hallmark when we were back at the Hallmark headquarters last year. They brought us in and then we got to talk in front of basically all the employees. Um, I had someone reach out to me that literally thanked me. She was he was watching Lights Camera Christmas with his sister who was passing in the moment, and he was holding. This kills me every time I tell a story, man. Uh, he he was holding her hand and he thanked me for, for providing peace. Um, so it's just wild.
yeah, yeah,
That's fun on that movie. It's like, you know, um, ah, I still
yeah,
get to tell this story without tearing up, but
mm,
uh, it just shows how it doesn't get more real than that.
yeah, yeah,
Uh, and I've talked to this person since, and we share a special bond, uh, and so I'm just really grateful to be part of that. And it is, I think the brand reflects the fans, which reflect the spirit, which reflects. It's like a full circle, love fest, really. They try to honor the fans as much as possible. I mean, that's the conversation we have with every movie, with every choice being made. It's like, does this align? Is this going to make? Um, and I just think Hallmark's done a really great job of continuing to stay true to their core heart, but also they've expanded in every which way they can. Whether it's the kind of movies they're making, the kind of people they're putting in the movies, the kind of stories they're telling, they just continue to expand their sort of reach without they do it in such a unique way without like violating anyone that they've just done it properly. I guess I don't know how to just put it into words.
mm-hmm.
I think they stay true to themselves while also embracing the new, whatever that means. You know,
Yeah,
um, And so, to wrap up your question, community, I think, is the coolest part about Hallmark.
I appreciate that. Thank you for sharing, firstly. And secondly, I can say as a fan, it further cements why we love and appreciate and ride so hard for Hallmark when we hear the actors' hearts like that. Like they're just not coming for a bag, like for a money grab or for whatever that, like they really are true to this, like to the family that I feel like Hallmark is, and in totality, from the cards to the movies to the TV shows, and now they have streaming, which I haven't even had a chance because I'm like, I know there's like a bajillion stuff that they're releasing on there, which we're going to talk about with, yeah, the sequel to Christmas on Cherry Lane. But it's just really cool how, like you, and I think you described it perfectly by saying a snow globe, because that's what I feel like Hallmark is this beautiful snow globe that we just get to explore different avenues of it, but all while still being under this one umbrella of having joy, having love, bringing love. And I feel like that's what Hallmark creates, and that's, at least I know that's why I'm here. Like that's why I love the movies. That's why I appreciate the actors, because I definitely connect, because I'm a very passionate person, and I can instantly connect with someone whose passion I can feel through the screen. It's like, oh no, they're coming to pay their mortgage today. Like I know that they put their heart and their soul into what it is they're doing, and I again just thank you for sharing that, because it further cements why we love you guys as actors, but also why we love Hallmark movies in general. So thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Well, to touch base on what you're saying and to give credit to like, my fellow castmates on Hallmark, what's really cool about Hallmark and unique is, we make these movies in a very short period of time. Means you are working very long days from beginning to end, and you're getting a lot of material done in that short period of time. So you have to be balls out all in. And that's what I've loved about every co-star I've worked with on there. And I think, probably you wouldn't be around if that it wasn't your thing. But everyone comes like ready to grind and make the best possible product they can in this short period of time. Like it's one thing to shoot a movie over, 6 months, and
Yeah.
it's like, oh, we take our time and set up the shots, and so, and this isn't just the actors. This goes for crew, and this goes for directors and everyone. I mean, it is a team game. We are grinding on these movies.
Yeah.
Generally, it's like a 15-day shoot to shoot a feature film, which is unheard of in the real, like, sort of cinematic world.
Yeah.
But that's what we do. You come buckled up. You're going to be working 12-hour days and grinding, and but then when it's done, every single one of us is like, I don't want it to end. We have the same conversation at the end of every movie. Is like, I feel like I was at summer camp, and every time it's like, let's run it back. Like it's always such a great experience, and it's a credit to everybody, cast, crew, execs, and they really too try to do the best possible product they can with all the limitations, time, budget, whatever it may be, to become, everyone's kind of soul food, everyone's warm, cozy blanket. We want to be that Christmas sweater that everyone like bundles up in. We want to be that ultimate background music while you're cooking. We want to be what kind of sets the flame with your love interest sitting next to you. We want to be all that. Like, you know what I mean? Hallmark and chill. You know what I'm saying?
This is why you can always come back to the Home of Dear Hallmark, John Brotherton. This is why. That was fantastic. But speaking of running back, let's run it back and talk about the first, now I can say, Christmas on Cherry Lane. This came out last year, and I know last year with the strikes and everything like that, it was really hard to promote on the front end. But we had a chance. I got a chance to see you at Christmas Con, because I think it was that. I forget if it was that Friday. I think it was that Saturday release.
Yeah.
That weekend, and so we got a chance to run it up over on that day, with having a lot of you guys there. So can you just tell the people, for people who may not have a chance to have seen the first Cherry Lane, Could you kind of lay the foundation for just like what Christmas at Cherry Lane is, and then your experience filming it?
Oh, so fun. So what was cool about Cherry Lane, and I've described it before, it's like a braid, right? It's like,
Oh, that's a
and some
beautiful
people
analogy. Yeah.
people that are fans of the TV show This Is Us, it has a similar thing. So it's multi-generational, but the unique thing about it is it all takes place within the same house. So you see the same house in many different generations, which was really fun. You know, I got to do the 70s. This time around, I get to do the 80s. You know, so I've rocked. I got the mustache, the whole thing. So it was cool because you're creating a storyline, and while we were shooting it, the storylines are kind of independent, even though they're woven together. So, like things that we were doing were setting up the other storylines. But really, we shot three separate movies. I mean, that's the way that had to work. They decorated the house the way it was supposed to be in the 70s, and then had to strike all that and redecorate it for the 90s, and strike all that, and then redecorate it for today. And then this time around, doing the same thing. And that was just awesome because it was a very complex script. You know, when you first read it, I was really like trying to put the pieces together in my head, go, okay, wait a minute. It was like, I really tried to like visual. And then once I like fell into it and then finally actually saw it, I was like blown away. I thought it was very unique, very complex. It was, I think, a more unique Hallmark movie in the regards that you couldn't walk away from it. Really, you almost had to take notes as it was kind of going by. There was like little hints along the way that if you missed it, you might not understand what happens next. Now, by the way, Erin is amazing. She's just the coolest. Like she's the sunshine, literally. Like
Yes.
she's, I call it Hallmark social chair. She's everyone's
That's
friend.
perfect. Yes.
She really is. She like if you need anyone's contact info, you call Erin. If you need like a recommendation for some fun restaurant, you call Erin. Like she is she everyone loves her. I mean, she really is. And like the first day you're around her, you're like, is this real? Like, are you really this nice to everybody? Like literally everybody? And she really is. I mean, she's just a bundle of joy and energy. And I think we just laughed. Like we literally laughed and laughed and laughed and laughed. I mean, it was like a set of laughter, really. And Gail, our director, I love. This is on the first one. She would always have music playing, which I love. A director that some directors want it like silent on set as people are like between scenes. She really lays into the energy of things, and so they'd like between. She'd have like classic rock playing or something fun in between setups where so this just kind of provides a loose fun vibe. So that was it was just a great experience. I mean, it's frankly all my experiences on Hallmark have been great, but it was really great. So to be able to run it back was extra cool to revisit it. But the thing I did on this one, uh, which I've only admitted on camera one time, but it hasn't aired yet. So this is going to be kind of funny. Um, I purposely didn't read the other storylines. I only read my storyline when I read the script, which is like a cardinal sin as an actor but I enjoyed the surprises of the first one so much that on this one, I really wanted to just focus on my storyline. And then I can't wait to watch it in real time and discover with the audience all the two different generations within the movie. So literally, I only read a third of the script. Well, our storyline's maybe a little heavier than a third of the script, but yeah, truly, I literally skipped to the next thing, which as an actor is probably awful to admit, but like I'm kind of proud of it. I'm kind of excited on this one to see it play out with just focusing on our storyline. So part of the benefit of my storyline too is we're the earliest generation, so it's not like things that happened before us are affecting me. It's we're the ones that affect the future generations. So I knew I could get away with just reading mine and then letting it all unfold. So it was a risk, but a lot of fun. I'm excited. I'm really excited to see the film now. Like to genuinely see what comes of it.
Yeah, and this one is special, the sequel to Cherry Lane, because it's going to be on Hallmark Plus, so it won't be on the network. So you'll get there'll be so many reactions throughout the entire day instead of it just being one
Right.
like concentrated block of time. Because some people may stay up till midnight that day, watch it. You may have some people watch it in the morning. Some people might watch it over their lunch break. Others might save it for that evening. So it's going to be like, how does that feel? Like having it come out on this streamer, and now you'll have kind of this like wave of
Wave.
reactions. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Can you talk about that a little bit? Like
Well, it reminds me of when I was on Fuller
Fuller
House.
House.
You have super fans that would watch the whole season in a day, but you could tell you'd start like you'd launch at like literally midnight, and right about I forget what it was in the morning, they'd start to trickle in. You'd at like 9 a.m. You'd have somebody start. You'd have the word out on the, oh my God, I already finished the season. I'm starting it again, and you're like, holy cow! Like it literally just dropped. And then by the end of the day, you had so many people who had just had burned through it all, or you had the other people that would write and be like, I'm only watching one episode a day, or families that like would say, we're going to try to. So the cool thing about Cherry Lane is that now they've taken that original braid of one movie and frayed it and created three new braids,
Come on,
right?
analogies. Yeah,
So
that's so great.
now So this isn't just a sequel, this is three sequels. So you get to follow each of the storylines as they go. So really Hallmark's creating a universe, which I think is so cool. And they're going to be coming out, I think ours is the last. I forget the exact dates. We're coming out on the 19th of December, and I believe we're the last of the three. I'm positive we are. I think we're the last thing to drop before Christmas. And so I think that'll be fun. I think what'll be fun is if fans revisit last year, it reruns a couple times, like watch last year, so you remember everything, and then you get to dive into each storyline as it goes off in its own little world. Um, so it's just really cool, really creative, um, really unique, clever storytelling, frankly, which was just a hoot.
And if that movie is coming out on the 19th, the 15th, just that Saturday, you're going to be in your first day spring movie for the network with Brooke Dorsey, who's one of my faves. Follow Yonder Star.
This movie is going to be special. Let me tell you. Yes, yes. It's a comedy, which I just love. Like they're just leaning into the comedy of everything. And this movie will make you laugh, and I promise you it'll make you cry. Because I find tears come easier and more plentiful on the heels of joy or laughter because your body is in a exposed nerve state. And so it's almost like in horror movies, like in The Conjuring, I was fortunate enough to be a part of. Like I got to be a little bit of the comic relief, which lightens tension in your body, and then wham, you get hit with something, and that scares you more. Well, drama's the same way, I think, with emotion. So if you're light and having fun, and then you get smacked with something that's heavy and heartfelt, you're just more exposed. Versus if you're on edge the whole movie waiting for that to happen, sometimes it doesn't seep into your soul quite so much. This movie in particular goes on a roller coaster of comedy and true tears. And I mean, Brooke is amazing. She's just so much fun and so down to earth and so grounded. She reminds me so much of going back to my Meisner, when I trained in Meisner, because it's just, she's like working with her is like a rubber band where, certain actors you can look in their eyes and you're like, okay, they're giving me what their interpretation of the moment is. And other actors are just locked in with you. And it's like whatever you do, they receive and they throw it back. And it's like a continual, like, whoa, 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 like a rubber band being pulled back and forth. And Brooke was just great at that. It was like, so there was, whether we were improving a moment and she was just ready for it, or in any moment, whether we made a change or not, she was just malleable to the moment. And she's just super grounded in her work, which was this movie is going to be a treat. And it flips Lights, Camera, Christmas on its head a little bit. It's kind of the reverse story, which is, I mean, not exactly, but the reverse idea. So I don't know what's out in the public. I feel like I should do that
Nothing. Just
before I.
the synopsis. Let me like they have like
I'll make
a
the synopsis so I don't spoil anything.
let me I'm gonna bring it up so that you
Yeah, I don't want to give
so
anything away.
they have a fallen from grace TV star and an innkeeper bond while directing a pageant. And that's what they've
Yeah, yeah,
given
yeah.
us.
So, yeah, that's the real broad strokes. But what's cool is that that is the reverse scenario of what Lights Camera Christmas was. So in Lights Camera Christmas, I was this actor who was on top of the world that felt like, he was cooler than ice. But this one, I'm like the bumbling fool, and she's the movie star who comes to town trying to kind of have an eat, pray, love moment. But instead of going to a big fancy spa, ends up at my little inn, and chaos ensues. So it was Jeff Beasley directed, and he's fantastic. He loves comedy. He loves to cross shoot, which means for the technical side of things, when you cross shoot and you're shooting both people at the same time, you can have genuine reactions. So if you don't cross shoot, if you just light the room one way and shoot one way, and then after that person's done with their stuff, you turn around. You either if something happened in that scene that you want a like the true reaction of, you try to recreate it. Whereas when you're cross shooting, it's very similar to a sitcom where you capture both at the same time. So you can step on each other's dialogue. You can do things where if you have a moment of improv, that genuine reaction is caught on camera versus trying to recreate it. So it just lends itself to comedy like so well. And I'm just so grateful we did it like that. And I mean, I'm really proud of this movie. Like, really proud of the depths that my character has to go emotionally, like probably more so than I've had to do in other Hallmark movies. Often the
Mhm.
male lead um, isn't necessarily the emotional one. But my character has had some serious tragedy in his life, and he's dealing with that. And then this person who's larger than life comes into his life and kind of flips his world upside down. When he was least expecting it, and it's certainly the most emotional, even though it's probably the most comedy. It's very similar to Lights Camera Christmas in the comedy aspect, but maybe even a notch up. It also has definitely the most emotion that I've had to grapple with, or my characters had to grapple with in any of these movies so far.
That more like deeper emotional journey, at least on the male side, I'm seeing that more as of late, that Hallmark is leaning into. I recently spoke with Marco Grazzini, and he played a character and it was a Hallmark Channel Spring into Love movie, but it was more so centered around his character dealing with anxiety and panic attacks and kind of where that was sourced from. And then even with Three Wise Men and a Baby, and then dealing with like issues of abandonment and neglect because of their dad. So it's really cool to see them lean into the deeper emotional aspect of movies, but through the male's eyes, and not always the one, our leading lady, which is really really cool. And I love Dayspring movies. I'm such a fan. So when I saw that you guys are attached to this, I was like, oh my gosh, oh my goodness, oh my gosh.
With our COVID addition to the family, my kids begged for a dog. Hey, sweetie. Okay, all right. She's She like wants to climb all over you, but she doesn't want to be held. She's funny. Um, yeah, so they begged for a dog during COVID, but they got a rabbit instead. Who actually never would I have thought, A, I'm a rabbit dude, and B, that they'd be a great pet. But she's so rad. She's like the coolest pet. She does all kinds of fun stuff, and she just provides such joy. Anyway, sorry to like go
No,
off
that's
topic.
okay. No, but
Uh,
I thoroughly enjoy Dayspring movies, so I was very excited to find out that you and Brooke were attached to this. And so I wanted to ask you, what is something in terms of, and at this point we haven't seen any trailers or sneak peeks of anything, but are you able to hint at, because it's a Dayspring movie, kind of, is there a biblical offshoot that they kind of incorporate, or what do you think, or what have you found is kind of like the Dayspring spin on this movie?
that's a great question because that was the question I had when they called. Literally,
Oh.
like, okay, I what I think they do really great is we're living in a world where people come from all different religions. It's not just a couple anymore. And I think the beautiful thing that they've really tried to do is I think there's just something beautiful about faith. Whatever that may, whatever your conviction is, religion or hobby or sport or family, whatever your conviction is that you have faith in that kind of drives you, that is your source of inspiration, if that's you want to call it your religion or your whatever, I think there's something very beautiful about that. And I think what they do in this movie is they're not alienating anyone outside of the Dayspring world, so to speak, of sort of like a Christian, background. I think it's just you feel there are a few biblical sense. One being in particular, it's very cool without giving too much away. It's called Following Yonder Star. So it's really about the Star of Bethlehem, but they do it in a way. My character is a science teacher, and so he breaks it down into a real world perspective of how at that time what was happening astrologically versus just what was happening. So it's cool because you get a little knowledge at the same time. You get a little like, oh, so that's might actually be what the Star of Bethlehem was, what they were seeing at the time. So they do some cool things with leaning in, but they don't, nothing's, for lack of a better term, nothing's like shoved down your throat. It's for your own. It's like you bring your faith to the table, and we'll reflect that. We're not going to sit here and tell you how to pray, or anything like that. It was sprinkled in I think in a really beautiful way that includes anyone that would have faith in anything, and then ties into your question this biblical sense with relating it to real world stuff because in the movie they're gathering to go look at the star, but he breaks down what's actually happening in the sky at the time with this. I don't want to give too much away because it's kind of fun when he reveals what he thinks the Star of Bethlehem actually was at the time. But when we have these crazy eclipses or we have crazy planetary,
Yeah.
alignment that cause things in the sky. So like basically reverse engineering the math to figure out what was happening at that time. He touches base on as a science teacher breaking down. So it's cool because it kind of you know it 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 touches on it without overdoing it,
Hmm.
or making it feel like an agenda or anything like that. I think it just supports faith, and love, obviously, and conviction, and um, maybe a sense of a greater good or a greater power, whatever yours might be. Everyone's is
Hmm.
different, I think, in our lives, and it can change too. Sometimes you have conviction for one thing, and as time goes on, you go, your heart goes in a different direction.
Hmm.
Um, so the messages throughout are just beautiful. And, regardless of what your religious denomination is.
So, what would you say inspires you? And you can answer that whether, like, just as John, like, as a human being, or you can answer that as an actor, that something like what inspires you to keep acting.
Oh man, I mean, what inspires me is my family. Like, I just feel blessed, and my children, my two girls, they are my motivation. They're my most proud thing in the world. And so they're certainly what inspires me. Um, as an actor, my inspiration. I just love it. I feel it is my church. When I am, it's weird because off camera, I don't, I'm not, I've, people would probably disagree, but I feel like a shy person, but who like, might feel goofy getting on the dance floor or uncomfortable in a certain situation socially. But like, I feel so free in front of the camera for whatever reason when I'm pretending to be somebody else. And it's my highest high. It really is. It's my ultimate drug, is the work. I just really love it. And I guess chasing, this sounds bad, but chasing that high, and wanting to just get to the next movie is like, in wanting to do it all again. I just, absolutely love it. I think part of it, I fell in love with acting long before I ever decided it or even considered it a career. I was like going to business school. I was very much like, well, no, that's a crazy thought. Like, that's fun and all when for drama camp, or I'll go to the movies. But the idea of actually doing that thing that I really love, is crazy. Um, and once I made that switch in my brain, like it is my ultimate. I just honestly, I want to. The cool thing about acting, you can do it forever. There's
Mm.
no like retirement age. And the roles change. I'm really enjoying the roles I'm getting to play at this place in my life. I've played widowers and stuff with more texture and,
Mhm.
people with serious careers and real life problems and dads and that's been um, really fun. They're just this sort of depth of characters that you start to play as you grow in your own life.
So, John, what would you say, because you have two movies coming out this Christmas season that we just talked about, what would you say that Hallmark fans can get out of your Christmas at Cherry Lane sequel, but also out of Follow Yonder Star? And they're two, they are two completely different
Totally.
movies. So, what can us as Hallmark fans, what can we walk away with that's different than our normal kind of Hallmark Christmas beats that we get every year?
You, both happen to fall, I think, outside of, but that's what Hallmark has been beautiful at doing. I really think they're trying to break the tropes
Yeah.
with like they honor the tropes, like they do a great job of honoring it and not wanting to like um basically turn their back on what the audience loves, but while also just kind of like expanding their ideas. Going back to what you said about the men, like the change in dynamic, I think the flip side of that coin is they don't only want women to be the fragile one. It's like they don't always have to be the victim or the fragile one in the relationship. Is like kind of they're it's like empowering the men through vulnerability while also empowering the women through strength and sort
Mm,
of like balancing that out.
yeah.
So these movies in particular, I think what's going to be fun about Yonder Star is it wraps up the holiday. It's like it's one of the last to drop, and I think it'll be a grand finale in that sense because it's gonna hit people. The comedy in this one was like just like none other I've ever been able to do, which is so fun. But then again, like I said, the emotion in this one I've never touched on either.
Mm,
So my extremes within this one movie are further than I've gone in either direction uh, so far in the Hallmark world. And so that's what I think will be really fun, especially to sort of close the season out. I mean, everyone's gonna be rewatching all the other wonderful movies as well. Um, but this was my greatest expanse in both directions within the Hallmark world. And then Cherry Lane on the 19th, that's such a hoot because it's like we got to run it back, and now it's
yeah.
like us, but we're a little further along and like, oh man, Aaron and I just love the 80s so much. I got the big mustache. She's got the blue eyeshadow and that she let her hair got to be curly like her natural curls. So we just got to lean into all the joys of the 80s, which we grew up in. And I mean, so there's so many special things about that, but there's so much nostalgia in the Cherry Lane movies. It's like why people fell in love with Stranger Things. There's nostalgia in it, right?
Yeah.
And there's so much nostalgia in it, and then there's so many Easter eggs in Cherry Lane of original Hallmark ornaments or original Hallmark things. Um, and so it's a fun Easter egg movie. It's a fun nostalgia movie. It's a fun sequel. It'll be fun to watch all three and then kind of like, I know fans like I saw after the first one, a fan like basically drew like a map of the whole story. Well, I can only see now it's going to be one of those walls like on a crime show where you've got like, the lines over here and you got the
Yeah.
house in the middle, and then you're going to have the house down the street and this couple and their kids and, the uncles. And I mean, so I think it'll almost be like you got to be a little bit of a sleuth. You'll be a nostalgia sleuth on Cherry Lane. So I think those are something to expect for sure.
So on the flip side of that, I want to ask you, like for people who don't have a Hallmark history and they're just coming to this network, like, listen, it's real outside. I need something that's not. Like I need something that's just kind of woosah, you know. What would you tell those people? Like, hey, Follow Yonder Star will do that for you, or the Christmas at Cherry Lane sequel will do that for you. Like, what would you tell those people?
Well, I'd say that to the person that's not the Hallmark fan that may have some sort of preconceived notion of what a Hallmark movie, that I think if you tune into following Yonder Star, all of your preconceptions of what a Dayspring movie is or what a Hallmark movie is will be turned on their head. I think it breaks some molds in a way, and you go on that same fun popcorn entertainment ride that people want when they go to the movies. This isn't like a linear story that just sort of like uh, is one noted, so to speak. I mean, you will go on an emotional roller coaster watching following Yonder Star. No doubt, no doubt you will laugh out loud at some point, and no doubt you'll challenge your tears at one point. I am so incredibly proud of this movie, like in a way um, that I just can't wait. I can't wait to for the world to see it.
Well, John, I want to thank you so much for coming into the home of Dear Hallmark. It's been a pleasure. But
Any
thank you, sir. Before I let you go, I just want to give you the floor to say whatever it is you want to say. You can talk about 80s pop music. You can talk about chocolate. Like literally, it's whatever you want to talk about. It's your moment to have. And so I'm going to give you the floor here.
I'm very grateful. I'm very grateful for the blessings of my life. I have wonderful people around me, and I just think we just all need to lean into loving each other and hugging each other. No matter who you are, no matter where you come from, and maybe even find a way to love the person you wouldn't usually love a little more. And I think we could heal a lot um, with uncomfortable hugs, if that makes any kind of sense.
Yes. Listen, you've been on point with these analogies. I'm sorry. I know I said I was going to give you the last word, but like the analogies have just been hitting like dominoes. Like it's great. It's great. Well,
You inspire that, Dar.
well, everyone, be sure to catch John's not one, but two Hallmark Christmas movies airing on Hallmark Plus as well as Hallmark Channel. He's John. I'm Dara. This is Dear Hallmark, and I'll talk to you guys in the next episode. Ciao, my friends.